Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Better Dice Gaming. I'm your host Scott, and today I'm here with a painting video for you. I've got a couple models that I built up, and actually just got done priming them, which I know is never the best way to start painting a model, but that's what we got for today. So I've got two models here. I'm going to be kind of painting them simultaneously. So we've got a custom super tack. See if we can get that to focus a little bit better there. Uh, or maybe it's just my eyes from my glasses and the computer being a little far away. So, custom super tack with the Magna staff or the Magna Guard staff, the Electro staff, cape, and just the heavy pistol in his hand. So we'll be painting him. And then this one's a custom commander for Empire with looks like the stun baton, and we've got again a cape on him. And this one's a little bit of a kit bash. I added a Mandalorian Super Commando helmet on him. So because actually in the lore, I'd look it up that there is times where the Mandalorians did work for the Empire. So this is what we got going on today. Um, Feel free to ask any comments in the chat. I do have the chat up and I can see what's going on and I'll try to answer you guys. Other than that, let's get going. So I think we'll start with the super tack because again, I've got a little bit, my lead belcher wasn't coming out very well. So we're going to go ahead and just touch up that base coat with him. I've got just a regular pot of lead belcher here that I'm going to use. And we're just going to go ahead and touch up all the silver area. So just kind of going here. I'm not going to be super delicate with this. I just need to get the paint on the model, get my base coat ready. So this is one of those stages where I like having a nice big brush. Makes this easy. I don't need to paint with a little teeny tiny brush for just doing base coats. You notice I kind of keep going back over the same areas. I don't know if it's the paint today or I've got a little bit of hair in there. I'm not sure which one, but that's just getting a little annoying. So I just want to make sure I get a smooth coat on here. Notice I'm not doing the lead belcher on the cape. The cape I'm going to paint separately with a different color, so I'm not worried about the lead belcher color on there. But again, just trying to build up this base coat to get a nice, good, thick, even coat. Gar Saxon joined the Empire. I believe that's for that tracks. Yep. And then sounds like you use a good rattle can to prime these. Is that right? So I do use a really good rattle can. I there's a lot of different brands out there, and I mean dealer choice. Pick whatever you like. I personally use the GW rattle cans. I came from originally from painting Warhammer models, and I find them to be really consistent, and that's the big thing. I've had some bad ones in the past, but yeah, this is what I go with. And again, I know it's expensive, about $20 a can, so it's definitely pricey, but yeah. So we've got a good base coat there. With the commander, I think I'm going to go kind of like a red and purple theme on him. So we're going to do maybe the red on the helmet and purple on the cape. But before we jump into that, let's go ahead and go on to the armor. So he's got kind of the standard, a little bit of the standard like armor that you'd find on a an officer. So I use a lot of different paints. I'm gonna move this just for a second. You guys can see my desk here. I use a lot of paints when I'm painting. I think having variety is key, and that's probably maybe a third of the paints I actually use. I use quite a few paints, so it's always nice to just have that right color when you need it. So I think I'm looking for more of a gray color. So I think I'm gonna go with Basilicanum Gray from Citadel. I'm not too worried on him if I paint a lot of the area because I'm just focusing right now on the main armor. And if I need to go back over stuff later on, I absolutely can. We're going to kind of come in, give him this nice gray color. This works really well. On this model, I primed it using a zenithal highlight. So we have a black undercoat followed by gray sear above that, from more of an upward angle, or sorry, a downward angle about 45 degrees. And then after that, I went to a pure white from above. So that's typically what I do on a lot of my models. Um, you'll notice that on this part again, I'm just using a nice big brush to try to move the paint around. I'm not looking for any specific coverage. And on this one again, the cape, I don't care if I get anything on the cape because I'm going to plan on doing the cape in a completely different color. And so I'll do a standard base layer, shade, dry brush on that to get the color I want. So always make sure when you're using these contrast paints that you're looking for the little areas like right there on the top of that knee that's not getting any paint, and just kind of move this paint around. I find that with the contrast paints, if you're not really careful moving this stuff around quickly and it starts to dry, it makes for a really hard time going back over it later to touch those spots up. So yeah, we're just kind of going to go ahead and get the gray on him, miss his foot a little bit. Really double check these models using contrast paints because, like I said, trying to get that color match later on is not easy. So I think he's looking pretty well covered there. So while that's drying, let's go back to our Super Tech. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them up in chat because otherwise I'm just sitting here painting quietly. So I use Nuln Oil. I don't know how many of you guys out there use Nuln Oil. It's, I don't know, painting magic. Um, I still actually have an old bottle of Nuln Oil, one of the big ones. What I found is that Nuln Oil stains a little too much, even on the newer version of it. So I'll take the new bottle, which is quite a bit smaller, and I will just pour it in here and then top it off with contrast medium, and that gives me a little bit of a thin down wash, so it's not quite as stainy. It still covers the model nicely without, getting it too overly saturated and changing your color palette that you've put on it. And so for this guy here, I'm just going to come in, do very much a similar thing that I just did with the contrast paint. We're just going to kind of cover him in Nuln Oil. Again, this is a thin down Nuln Oil, so it's not going to be super stainy. I'm just trying to bring up a little bit of the contrast between the pieces and trying to, just make sure I can see the detail a little bit better. So I do really enjoy painting. I find it relaxing. I don't have to worry about anything else that's going on and just kind of come up here and put my paint on my models. I'm sure some of you also feel that same way. But I know a lot of people out there can also find it quite stressful. I haven't had luck with contrast paints. Do you thin them? Nope, I don't thin them at all. I take my paints directly from the pot. Um, I also have some speed paints, and I've had issues with speed paints where I've been painting something and the paint decides to run on me. Um, Basically what I find is that the contrast paints are a little bit thicker, a little more viscous. They require you to move the paint around a little bit more than you would like a what's it called? A speed paint. But yeah, I don't know. I've done, I don't know. I like the models I painted with them. I think they come out pretty good. Um, but I did find a little spot on our commander here that is missing right back down in here. Okay, so we got that touched up now. I'm not looking for a real dark gray on him, but yeah. No, and again, I think I've got just about every contrast paint in the range. I found uses for a lot of them over the time. This model's not done, but there's a lot of this done on contrast here. This is my Hondo. I think that's getting a pretty good image of him there. So yeah, a lot of this was done using contrast paints. I mean, his boots, his pants, the red on the jacket, the green on the jacket, the skin tone. Yeah, lots of contrast paint on him. So he's not quite done yet. He needs to get clear coated and get some grass on the base and move on to him next. So this wash is taking a little bit longer to dry here. I don't like doing the washes on stream like this. They do take a little bit longer. But we can start on this guy's cape. So I said I'm thinking about purple cape for him. So we'll go with Nagroth Knight. Again, a nice purple color from. Thank you. I appreciate that. When you go over the black, you don't seem to you don't seem. Wow, my glasses are really bad. When you go over the black, they don't seem to tint it. Have that had, and how do you fix that? So yeah, I mean, again, the big thing is just kind of thinning the paint. You can thin it. Again, I don't usually thin it at all. But with the Nuln Oil, yeah, having it thinned, I'm not looking for a real deep staining. Um, yeah, I'm just getting to get a little bit of that color change going on. Um, but yeah. Okay, so jumping on this guy's cape. So we're gonna do a purple cape on him. So again, I don't even thin this paint because this is just a base paint. I just want to get color on here. And I know it's going to take me a couple layers to build this up, which is fine. And you can definitely see the white coming through on this. This is one of the base paints from the Citadel line. They're a little bit thicker, a little more pigmented. They can be sometimes a little bit more tedious to deal with. Um, but I find just like any paint, just take your time, go slow, get the paint where you want it. I know the big thing out there is a lot of people use airbrushes. I tend to not use airbrushes at all. That was for the contrast paint. If you go over the black, they don't seem to tint. Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking for the contrast paint to tint. When I do the Nuln Oil over the contrast paint, I'm just looking to bring out the recesses a little bit. I hope that's answering your question. Just lathering this paint on there. Again, I'm not super worried about this being too thick because you can see a lot of the white coming through on there. It's going to be a couple layers on this paint. That's always the problem, painting a dark color over a light color. It's bound to happen. This guy's got a big old cape flowing down here. So while I got people on stream watching here, so on our next battle report, which I'm not sure it's going to be next week because I know that we have Christmas next week, which is going to kind of throw our schedule way off. I know that some of the people aren't available, and it's Christmas Eve, which I've got family coming over for, so I probably won't be able to do a stream that day at all. But Justin is planning on running the Stormtrooper Battalion, the new battle force, and I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what to go into that's not just going to destroy it. I'd love to hear your guys' ideas on what you want to see go against that list. Give that purple a minute to dry. What do you think I should do for the color here on the super tack? You see this wash is still definitely taking time to dry. I did really put it on there. Um, and again, the wash is so thin that it's not gonna like the darker wash that's kind of pooling up right here is it's gonna leave a little bit of a not a stain, but a little bit of a shadow there, and I'm okay with that. I don't need these to be perfect. Ewoks could be fun in a storm. Yeah, I thought about that. Um, I don't know if he's running pure stormtroopers or if he's going to be running um, riot squads. I think he's going to be running riot squads because I saw him say that he has all six of his units of riot squads painted up now. So that could definitely be interesting. I don't know if the Ewoks can go into the white to the riot squads very well. But we also just had the Ewoks on the stream, so I'm hesitant to put them back on so close together. Um, and I know that just a mass of stormtroopers is going to be not great necessarily. Um, they're just going to throw so many white dice and then saving on reds. I thought maybe putting clones into them and just doing mass clone bodies, but I don't think that's very fair either. You like blue for the super tech. Okay. I've got a nice blue I got to find, but yeah, blue sounds good. I think I've done green and purple or red for my other super techs. So yeah, blue definitely works. I'm happy to do that. So I'm being a little impatient here. Not all of this was completely dry, and I'm getting more of that paint kind of coming up and showing. I do have a bunch of pikes, but unfortunately, none of them are painted. And I don't know, again, I don't know how soon we're going to be playing this game, so I'm hesitant to plan on painting up six units of pikes or something like that in the meantime. I thought about doing Shadow Collective and running Black Suns. I've got a bunch of Black Suns. I'm gonna move this camera a little bit because I keep painting closer and closer to me, and you guys can't see what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean that sounds like the fun list. I've got the swoops painted up, but that's about it on that list. So there'd be quite a bit to do still on that one. I've got some really cool swoops. I took time and kit bashed the heck out of those guys. Um, they were a lot of fun to build and paint. In fact, I've got my carts of models here next to me, so let's see if I can grab them real quick. So, all of them were built using different parts of different models to try to get a variety of these scum that have joined the Shadow Collective from different walks of life. Um, let's see. I'll start with the one that's probably my least favorite. It's just kind of generic. This is just a clone trooper on a jet bike or a swoop bike with his helmet still sitting behind him. So again, I took a hobby knife and did some scarring up on the armor so that his armor looks scarred up a little bit. So that's the first one. The second one with the matching yellow bike is just a Mando. So again, another fairly simple paint scheme. I'm glad you're here for this. So yeah, just kind of a simple paint scheme on this one, nothing too crazy. The next easier one is just a droid that was put together with parts from anything and everything that they had around. So you got like a security droid's leg from Genosha. Um, he's got a super tack arm. We've got actually an arm from the IG-11, IG-88 models over here. So just something a little bit different. But then these are the best ones. This one was a complete kit bash for the rider, and we did a Tusken Raider on bike. The nice flowing robes. So he's got the staff on the back of him. Oh, you haven't even seen the best ones yet. This one's a fun kit bash. This one was just a Genoshan warrior with the pike. Nice bright colors for him. Really kind of stands out. Getting the feet right on the pegs was really difficult on him. Yeah, sorry, Cody. We're painting today. Hold on. We're just showing off some models real quick. But then the last one here that I like is I took one of the Wookiees from the Fluttercraft and went ahead and added him on here. I had to make custom foot pegs that came down so that it was able to, have somewhere to put his feet at. And then changed out the arm for the one throwing the grenade for the arm with the sword. The Tusken Raider parts, a buddy of mine ordered some, and he got them from somebody on Etsy, and he had one or two models left over. So I literally just took the head and the staff that were 3D printed resin, and yeah, everything else was just. The whole cloak is actually interesting. The cloak is done with just paper towel. So if you take wet paper towel and you put it over the model where you want it, and then put super glue on it, the liquid super glue, it just hardens in this really cool shape. I mean, it's on here. It's not going anywhere. And yeah, you just kind of mold it the way you want, and so you get that flowing robe look. They need to add the Raiders to Legion. I agree. I think it's a missed opportunity. Okay, so let's get back to this base coat here. Try to get this purple done. It's still coming off a little bit. So we're gonna wait on that. Let's go back to the super tack. Um, so we want blue on the super tack, we said. Um, I got Stegodon scale green. It's kind of a bluish color. It's not really a green. It's more of a blue. I like that one. The other one I'm looking for, I actually don't know if I have anymore. I think I might be out of it. And this light in the way is not helping. But the color I'm looking for is Cantor blue. Again, another Citadel paint. Surprise, surprise. Hey, and what do you know? There we go. Cantor blue. So we're going to go with Cantor blue on this guy. Yeah, feel free. Anything I'm doing on here that you want to steal, go for it. I'm happy. I'm here to be inspiration. Okay, Cody, I know you're gonna kill me here. I'm sorry, but I've got to show off one more model. If I have them in here, I don't know if I do though. Nope. Oh yes, I do right here. Um, I used some water decals for railroad graffiti and used those on my swoop buses. And I might have to move the camera for this, but so this is what my swoop buses look like. So completely graffitied up on them, and they're all just railroad graffiti. So that's one of them. And then here's the other one, the ghetto bus. Tried painting Mark II today. First try at painting. Not sure how to feel about it. LOL. Now, Cody, you have to send me some pictures. I'll give you critiques and help you out. You know that. So again, just another fun bus. Yeah, these are really cool to do. And then just kind of green jets on the back. So, but yeah, my Shadow Collective was done with a lot of love and time into those models because they were fun to do. Okay, let's get these glasses back on. Put some paint on this model. Okay, so I think we'll save another color for the cape on this guy, but we'll use the Cantor blue to do some of the armor on him. So I know we were talking earlier, and you're saying that you were having some trouble with contrast paints. If you look up contrast paint samples, you can find a bunch of pictures where people have taken bases or even full models and did the same model and covered every one of them in the different contrast paints. And not only did that, but did them over different bases. So like some would be done over lead belcher, some would be over white scar, Xandri dusk, a lot of the different colors. And that's one of the things that really helped me with the contrast paints is figuring out what to paint over what colors, because there's times where you kind of get that contrast paint and then they just aren't looking that good. Mine are super warm looking, heat gun and 3D printer, car damage widget. Yeah, that's rough. But yeah, using those pictures, I mean, that's how I found a lot of the colors that I wanted, and it helped me to make sure that when I was putting the paint on there, I was getting the correct color the first time without having to redo a lot. Let's see, we got his chest plate here. I'm trying to figure out where else I want to put blue on him. A little back of the chest plate up on by the shoulders right there. I think we gotta do some on the arms. Maybe we'll do these little parts on the arms right here. So again, the big thing with painting is just taking your time, going slowly. You'll notice a lot of the time, I've got either my hand is touching the paint, the hand I'm using the paintbrush in is either touching the model or touching my hand. So like down here, I'm touching my thumb, just so it gives me that little bit more control instead of trying to hover my hand. This just allows me to kind of take a little bit more time and control exactly where I want that paint to go. Or like right here, I'm putting my hand firmly on the ground, on the tabletop. My hand is pressing on the tabletop. So I know that I'm not going to be moving anything accidentally when I start putting paint on. I let perfection get in the way of progress, so I'm always looking for ways to speed up my painting progress. Yeah, I there's a lot of people out there who just want to get stuff painted and get it done, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, I mean, some of my models, like if I'm just doing core models, they're going to be fairly quick and simple. I'm not going to do a ton on them. Um, if I'm doing something that's a little more elaborate, like the speeder tanks or something that I put some time and care into building and customizing, then yeah, I'm going to be a little more time consuming on that. Look good. Just adding that little bit extra there. Maybe you do it on the back of the hand too. So we'll go ahead and just dab that in right there. The other thing I see a lot of people doing when they're trying to paint is that they will not they'll get super worried about making mistakes. And honestly, painting is you're going to make mistakes. It just happens. I mean, I've got models that I've painted and, I can see the imperfections on them and people are like, "Oh, they look amazing." And um next thing I know that's soaking in rubbing alcohol so I can strip the paint off and do it again because I was unhappy with the way it turned out. But yeah, I mean, painting isn't for everyone. But I highly encourage you if you are playing the game to just sit down, start putting paint on models, and you'll be amazed at what a difference it makes because not only are you going to feel better when you've got your models painted that you did, but it's just a feeling of self-confidence that you did something that maybe you didn't think you're going to be able to do. Vallejo sand basing paste would be my recommendation. If you want to do desert style sand on the base, what would you recommend? So I actually use real sand. Um, in fact, Cody, when we painted your B1s and all your stuff for that tournament, we used sand basing. I always recommend that you get different sizes of sand if you're going to do that. Don't just get one general size. You want to really kind of get some variance in there. So, like my sand mixture that we use, Cody, is right here, and it's just Got some bigger pieces and smaller pieces in there. And then, yeah, you just put Elmer's glue on, toss it on there, and you're almost done at that point. So, and that's the same thing I did on Hondo, is the same basing there with the sand. Come on, focus. But yeah, same basing as just that sand, Elmer's glue, and then go to town. Okay, we got some glue on this. I think this guy needs some glue probably down on these big shin pads for the extra armor. This is a model I did not have a plan for when I came in tonight. This was just figured let's just grab them and paint them up. Yeah, I need to get a regular routine, get them on the table. Elmer's glue is my go-to for adding actual sandbait. Yeah, so I use just regular Elmer's glue, and it can even be like the washable kind that like you'd have like in a young kid's classroom. That's all I use because as a teacher, I've got a bunch of that laying around. So, um, yeah, just I put that into a little palette and then I use one of my brushes. And I don't really care about the brush because again, it's washable glue. So I'm not worried if I get glue on it. But just, yeah, get the glue on there and start putting it on the base where it needs to go. And yeah, you're good to go. The angles on this guy is going to be fun because his leg and these capes don't make it super easy. So you'll see a lot of the time I'm painting, I tend to do big block colors. So I'm doing just this deep blue here. And then when I go to start doing shading, I may put a blue shade on there to bring out the blue color instead of just using a Nuln oil. I may choose to just use Nuln oil. It just depends. Um, but then a lot of time I like to do this where I use a base color, excuse me, base color, and then bring up the color with a lighter color. Sometimes I'll do layering, sometimes I won't. It just really depends on what I'm in the mood for and how quickly I want to get a model done. But this guy will definitely be getting some dry brushing here soon. I'm really liking that blue. The super glue can work fine as well too. What brand of brushes do you recommend? I use just about any brushes that work. In fact, right now this brush I'm using is a standard Citadel starter brush. I always assemble before I paint. I think that's kind of my thing is if I get a model and I want to play with it, I don't necessarily want to have to paint it before I can play with it. I want to get the model, build it, and then if it's something that I want to take to tournaments or whatever, then I can go ahead and take the time and paint it up. Otherwise, at least I've got it built. I can use it anytime I want. I don't have to worry about trying to get the paint done. Because my thing is, you see these people, they're trying to get the paint in all the exact perfect spots. And I don't know. If you've got a guy carrying a gun and the gun is in front of his chest, who cares what that chest looks like? You're not going to see it once that gun gets glued over the top of it. Don't spend a lot on them until you get a good feel for how you want the brush to react. Yeah, yeah. I mean that's definitely a big thing. I mean I've used various brushes. I like the Citadel brushes because I find them easy to use. But yeah, whatever brush you're using, it takes time. I mean, it takes practice. You've got to get used to the feel of the brush and the way it reacts to the pressure you're putting on it. Um, and then yeah, you'll see like I got a little touch of blue right there. So that's the reason I like using standard colors because now I can take my lead belcher and just touch that up, so I don't have to worry about that mistake. But yeah, I mean, I've got Citadel brushes, I've got cheap Hobby Lobby brushes. I use whatever brush works. Hate adding capes before painting. Yeah, I mean, I get that. Capes can be a little bit of a pain, um, you know, but they're capes. I hated on the new Empire custom commanders where they had the holes on the back of the body for the cape. So you either had to put a cape on it or had to figure out some way of filling it in. And a couple of mine got filled in, a couple of mine didn't. A couple of mine either got capes or got filled in. So just my preference on that. My hand is shaking pretty good right now. You'll notice another thing when I'm painting is you'll see a lot of people that often want to use their fingers like they're writing to do it. Um, and so they're usually doing the brush a lot. Um, I find that sometimes using your wrist to make the motion seems to be a little bit more controlled. So I can get a little bit more control out of trying to move my wrist around instead of trying to use my fingers to move the brush. So in like little areas like this, like the back of that part of the head I just painted, if I don't get that fully painted, I'm not worried about that because I will probably go back over this model with a wash when I'm done with it. Because again, that thin down wash I use doesn't pigment super well, so it's okay. What affordable starter paint sets do you recommend for someone on a budget, brand new in the hobby? Um, I mean, honestly, somebody just getting into it, you can go to the dollar store and buy their paints. You can go to places like Michael's and Hobby Lobby and get the standard acrylic paints there, but you will have to thin them down. They're basically the same paints I'm using right now, but they are like or they're just not thinned down. These ones are thinned down already. Where did you attach the droid for the custom Empire commander or operative? I did not. I didn't like the way that the droid worked, so he did not get used at all. Well, I take that back. I did use the commander, but only for his head because the droid got put on a rebel commander that will be getting painted soon too. So that's where the droid went. I didn't like the droid, so none of them got him. Okay. So I'm liking the blue on there. I think it's looking good. Um, where do we want to go with him next? We got a lot more to do on this guy, so let's jump back over here. Uh, did you just thin with water? Nope, I didn't thin anything. I tend to not thin my paints too much. Again, a lot of the paints I'm using, they are already kind of pre-thinned. Um, when I was doing a lot of painting way back when I first started, and I started painting models in around like 92, um, when I was getting into Warhammer when I was younger. Um, that's all I used was just the generic paints from the hobby store that my mom had laying around from doing ceramics. And those, I mean, yeah, you definitely had to thin those down, otherwise they would get globby and clump up on you really quick and just look like a pile of disaster. By the way, guys, this is also a brand new camera I'm using. Let me know how it's working. If you guys are seeing this okay, if it looks really bad, I'm not, again, I haven't used it much before, so one of the things I've told people before is when it comes to painting models, the thing I always hear is the eyes. The eyes are the worst part. Use testers paints when you first start. Yeah, tester paints are good paints. There's nothing wrong with them there. Ooh, so I've got a little bit of purple on the back of him back here. So we're going to try to get that off real quick. So on this, I'm just using a little bit of water for my paint pot. Nothing too crazy. And I'm just coming in here and kind of going over where that purple was and just trying to wipe it off. And you can see it's coming off pretty well there. It might leave a small tint of purple, but I'm not worried about that because, again, more than likely we'll probably add some Nuln oil on the back of this guy later on. Picture quality looks clear to you. Perfect. There's actually a document camera for, like showing documents and stuff up on a screen. So I was a little worried about how it was going to work, but I think it's doing pretty good. Okay, so we got a nice base color on the purple there. I do want to do some green armor on this guy. Actually, do I want to do green? I think we do red. I think red would probably look better. So I'm gonna go with my common red that I like to use. Anytime I'm doing bad guys, I tend to do corn red. If I'm doing a good guy, I tend to do Mephiston red. So Mephiston red's a little bit of a brighter red. Corn red is on the right here; it's a little bit darker. So just to try to give the bad guys a little bit darker color, good guys a little bit brighter color. So you can see how thick this paint is. I mean, this is a really thick paint. I'm not crazy about how thick this is, but I know how I'm planning on using it, so I'm not worried about it being super thick. We'll come in here and just start painting this red on. I like these good bold colors like this. I think they look pretty good. But yeah, so I started talking earlier. So tips for painting eyes. The one thing I found on painting eyes, I actually used to paint with a guy who was a sniper for the army way back in the day, and he taught me a trick. And the trick is when you're painting something super small and detailed, just like when they were taking their sniper shots, is to just take a breath in, hold it for a second, and then breathe out slowly. And as you're breathing out slowly, it actually lowers your heart rate. And so you're less likely to have your hand and anything like that for the smallest movements moving because of the heart beating and pumping through your body. So, kind of interesting tip there. But yeah, so I'm doing stuff really, really small, like the eyes. You'll see me kind of pause. I'll probably get quiet because I'm taking that breath and then kind of painting it. We got a little bit of red on the inside of that cape now too. So again, just a brush with a little bit of water on it. Doesn't have to be super wet, and you can just usually come in and just pull that color right off. Okay, and to go along with this red armor, we're gonna go ahead and get the helmet going here too. So let me ask you guys, when you're painting, what do you guys normally watch or listen to? Definitely makes a lot of sense. Something you'd have thought of. Yeah, I never would have thought of the whole idea of holding my breath when painting something super small or detailed like that. So if Kevin happens to be watching this, thank you again, Kevin. That's saved my butt a lot of times when painting small things. Yeah, so typically when I'm painting, I've usually got something in the background on a TV that I can look at or listen to just to help pass the time. Obviously, with trademark stuff, I can't do that during painting videos. Even having music playing could be not good. So that's what we get to chat with for. Okay. Oh, this guy has some weird armor on his legs, but I think we go ahead and go with the same red down here. I'm sure you guys can notice my brush is not the best brush. This is one I've been using for a little while now. Um, and again, I've got so many brushes that if one starts to get bad enough, I usually just stop and grab another brush of the same kind. Worry about fixing this one later on. So Legion models, Legion podcast, NPC, cast for Marvel, etc. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a drive for work, so I tend to listen to my podcasts and stuff in the morning on the way to work. Um, so yeah, I'm typically just a lot of times I'll just put a movie on because I don't want something that I've got to concentrate on. So usually just putting a movie on that I've seen a million times before or something like that is just kind of easy. Um, the problem is the choice of picking what movie I'm going to watch sometimes takes a little bit longer. But I've had those days where I've had really, really long painting sessions and ended up, painting for a really good portion of the day and just end up watching countless Star Wars movies because that's what was on and I could put on easily and just let it cycle through. So I'm not trying to go overboard with this red. This camera. There we go. I keep going further and further away from me. So I know a lot of people talk about, oh, get the best brushes, get Artist Opus and all these different brands. Good. I mean, like any brush, you need to kind of take care of it. But I don't know. I'll grab any old brush and back when I was younger, we didn't have super fine brushes, so there was stuff I was painting with toothpicks because that's what I could get that was small. I mean, again, that's when I was 10, 11 years old, but I was painting. Okay, looks like we got this little side part of the pad right here that we missed. Okay, I think he's starting to come along. We're getting some colors on him. I could definitely see playing Star Wars movies, shows, while painting Legion. Yeah, it's a good fit. Oh, you know what? He's got these shoulder pads that should probably be red as well. I hate these capes with the built-in shoulder pads. So you probably heard me get quiet right there. Painting something small and detailed right at the edge. That's crazy. I started with painting with toothpicks and Q-tips says it didn't have brushes. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. Sable hair reacts differently, so you know how to manage it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. The longer you paint, the better you start knowing the tools, and it makes painting so much quicker and easier. Like I know that I'm probably using a bigger brush than a lot of people would, but I know how it's going to react with what I want it to do. I mean, if Cody's still here watching, I mean, he knows that we're teachers, and I know he coaches sports, and the more that you want to get better at something, the longer it takes the practice that you got to put in. And it's the same thing with this. You just got to put the time and practice in, and You'll get better and better as you go. Even if you don't have the best tools, you got to start somewhere. Okay, so we got the red going there. I do think I want to give him brown on his gloves. They're kind of a weird looking glove. I'll probably do something else with them besides just the brown. Dang fingers not fingering correctly. Yeah, that is definitely a problem. So here you go. We talked about browns, and we talked about contrast paint. So I'm gonna use my trusty snakebite leather, and we're gonna do the brown gloves. So I know that I already put a gray color over the top of this for the white, but we're gonna put brown over that now, and it should be just fine. It should be a nice kind of warm brown color that I'm looking for. And I might do his belt also. So you see here when I'm grabbing the paint. So I mean, I just put the paintbrush in, I kind of twirl a little bit. I'm just trying to get the paint on there. And it doesn't look like I've got a lot of paint on there, but I have enough paint that I need to come in here and just start dropping the paint off. And again, like I said, I find the contrast paints, you got to be a little bit more, it takes a little bit more to work them around where you want them because they're not as thin as the speed paints. And you notice again, I don't really care if I get on the baton because I'm going to be painting the baton a different color. You notice I'm not just piling it on like crazy, like, you think it might go on, but just a simple, straightforward brown. We'll go ahead and do the other one over here. And again, the gun, I do all my guns the same way, so not worried if I get anything on the gun. Again, just like we keep talking about, no matter what you're painting, when you're painting, or how you're painting it, it's all about the feel of the brushes and what you're used to with them and how they're going to react. So, yeah, just a simple brown. Let's go ahead and get this belt also. It's on this part where I'm trying to take a little more time. You can do the same thing like I showed you earlier with getting the paint off. If you get it in the wrong spot, it's a little bit harder with the contrast paints because they want to run and they want to react to um, water that's on the brush. And so it takes a little bit longer to try to get them off if you need to. Okay, so there we go. Browns are done. Also, if you're using any of the Citadel paints and you're using any washes or contrast paints, I highly recommend getting one of these. It just holds the bottles in there so they don't move around. Um, it's you see videos and stuff all the time or pictures of people talking about how they spilled a bottle of contrast paint or Nuln oil or some kind of wash. That thing is just a lifesaver. I would highly recommend getting one. Well, we've got a holster for the gun. So we're going to go ahead and do that brown as well right now. Should I wash before or after I paint? Again, it depends on how you're painting and what you're painting. Um, for me, if I'm doing like solid colors like the red or purple I'm doing on this guy, um, I will end up painting the solid colors first. And then depending on the color, I might do the dry brush and then a wash, or I might do a wash and then dry brush. It really just depends. Um, if you do a dry brush and then a wash, you're going to have to use a lighter color dry brush so that the wash doesn't darken it down too much. But if you're doing a wash and then a dry brush, you need to wait for the wash to fully dry, obviously, and then the dry brush needs to be a little bit darker color than you would probably think because you don't want to show too much. So we've got this purple here. Let's go ahead and go with the dry brush over the top of it. So notice I've got Lucius Lilac here. This is a really, really bright purple coating. And we're going to use this to do the purple. You'll notice again, is it considered a dry paint, so it looks almost like a paste in there, and this paint won't come out. I can hold it upside down for a long time and it's not going to come out like that. Have to, yeah, you pour over a pot. Yep. So, and I'm using a Citadel base brush for my dry brush here. Just one I've had that's kind of ratty and worn. There we go. Kind of ratty and worn right there. So, on this, you just want to dab it into the paint. Kind of gets built up on there a little bit. Sometimes you can get little clumps like that, and that's okay. And then we're going to use paper towel, and we're just going to work this into the bristles. So I'm going to start by kind of getting the excess paint off, and then just twist and kind of touch it in there. So I'm just working the paint in. And then we'll kind of go off to the side a little bit. Again, twisting. We want it where we're not getting a lot of paint off, but just a little bit. So you can see I'm kind of going over different areas, trying to get the paint off. Now, if I go over the back of my hand, which is rough, and I paint over the back of my hand, I'm looking to get a little bit of color off, but not much. Now, obviously, this purple color is kind of a hard color to do this with, like reds and blues show up a lot better. But if I put more paint on there, you can see I'm starting to get a little bit more of a purple color there. And that's okay, because again, we don't want it to be real dark. So I'm going to start by going against the grain and just do some light passes. And just trying to build up that highlight. Notice I'm not even focusing on the whole thing. I'm just doing this small area right here. Maybe I come over here and do a little bit more now. So I just want to build up that highlight. I don't want it super sharp and contrasted. Notice I'm going against the ridges. If I'm not going against the ridges, then you're going to get bigger marks left behind it. So on this part, I'm just going to kind of show you what that looks like. Notice how I'm kind of getting longer, streaky marks right there. And that's okay. But I mean, you've got to get some of those in here because you've got more area to paint. So sometimes you have to kind of go with the grain to get more of those to show up. And again, this looks really sharp and contrasting because the purple is the light purple is really going to stand out against this darker purple. And then I always try to come down here and do the edges of the bottom. I know no one's probably going to look down here, but I want it to also show down here on this part as well. And then same thing on the inside. I'm probably not going to do a ton on the inside, but I'm going to go the areas that are going to be most visible. Back in camera view there. I'm going to go over the areas that are most visible. Because again, this is underneath. There's not supposed to be a lot of light shining from down here. So notice I do it one way. You can see the purple there, but it's not going to be super overpowering. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of purple to show up. So there's our kind of a heavy dry brush, not super heavy, but we're getting some of the color starting to show. And then we want to bring that color down a little bit, but we want to start building in the recesses. So another key thing when you're dry brushing, you want to make sure that your brush is dry. don't get a wet brush and try to dry brush with it. It's not going to work. It's going to take the paint that you're putting on there and it's going to liquefy it, and it's going to be like painting. It's not going to be like dry brushing. But we said we want to bring this color up a little bit, and we are dealing with a purple. So I'm looking for my purple wash that I have way back here in the back. So we've got Druchii Violet. So Druchii Violet again is a purple wash. Same thing. I'm going to use my little paint pot holder. Give it a good shake. So I want to mix up the colors. And I mean, I can do a small brush, I can do a big brush on it. I just want to get it on there, and then I can wick it off if I need to. So we're going to use a big brush. So I'm just going to put it on here, get some of the paint. Notice I'll use the top of the lid to try to get some excess off that I don't need. So if I got too much on there, I can just push a little bit, get it to come off. But then we're just going to come in here, and I'm just going to swoop downwards with this. And now look how much lighter those purple highlights just became. Or how much darker, I should say. They're not showing as much. We're just getting some coming through. Touch up the bottom, and then just get right inside here. So because we did a really, really bright color on here when we started, it's not going to look as dark now. Texture files are great for dry brushing. Yeah, if you have bits from a lot of old models and stuff and just leftover stuff, you can go buy a small, like a tin lid or any kind of like plastic Tupperware lid and just glue a bunch of stuff on there and make sure it's stuff that's got different textures. Give it a good base of glue to glue the stuff on there. And yeah, if you can use that. I've got one. I think it's downstairs. I don't even use it. I use the back of my hand because it's seems to be the best way for me to tell how much paint I want on there or not. So, but yeah, I think that cape is looking good. Once that dries, it'll look really good. Okay, so we've got the straps for the armor on his legs. So I don't know. I don't think I want to do the brown for those. I think they look a little more metallic. So I think we'll use a silver for that. And then we still got to do the baton and the gun, and then obviously the helmet. So yeah, let's go ahead and go with the silver next. So take our lead belcher. And we're just going to start coming in and doing the silver. So I'm watching the hands where I already did the hands, so that way I'm not getting any paint on the hands. The ones used for makeup. Yeah, makeup sponges work really well, the little beauty blender eggs. The other thing is if you have any foam cases that has like the pick and pull foam, where you are pulling out the pieces of foam to fit your models, that actually works really well too. In fact, I've got some terrain I'm going to be painting up soon when I get it, and I'll be using a lot of foam for that for the paint scheme I want to do. Okay, and again, I said I'm not going to do um, the gun just yet because again, I do most of my weapons the same way. But we're going to come down here and do these little parts of the legs, the armor. Sorry, I know sometimes that cape gets in the way and you guys can't see what I'm doing. but it also helps sometimes if I can see what I'm doing. Oop. So you can see the kind of the dark pooling we're getting in the recess there. I don't want a ton of it, but that little bit is perfectly fine with me because that's what's giving me the depth on the cape. Now I know I've got this armor started as like a gray. I'm sorry, not the armor. The like the clothing is like a gray color. What do you guys think if I did it as a green? I don't know. I'm kind of partial to the gray, but I'm not sold on it. Maybe it needs to be a little bit darker. Mm, I don't know. Not there yet, so we won't worry about that part just yet. One of my favorite colors to use when it comes to doing my weapons is Black Legion. Again, another contrast paint. With Black Legion, I enjoy using this one because I'm just trying to get a good solid black. And once it dries nice and thin. So this is what I do on my weapons. I give it a good black base, and then I dry brush it silver. And that's virtually all I do for my weapons. So we're going to come in here and just make it black. Trying to avoid the fingers. You can see there's a little bit of the brown showing through in some places. But as it darkens and dries, you won't really see any brown coming through like we do have here. Plus, once I dry brush it, you won't see it anyways. Okay, for our super tack we've been working on as well. Again, the gun is just going to get painted black. So come in here and give this a nice dark color. Try to get our solid black color on there. Make sure we get the hand grip. Or not the hand grip, the hand guard. There we go again, just another simple solid black color. And then I do the Magna staff or the Magna Guard staff the same way. So, and again, yes, I'm going to go right over the little lightning effect on here because I'm not worried about that right now. We are going to end up painting that a different color. I don't know if you guys can hear the dogs barking in the background. If you do, I apologize. There are little doorbell jerks. How do you do stormtroopers for a beginner? Easiest and cheapest way. Cody, we've talked about how I've done my stormtroopers. Um, I do them the same way as my clone troopers. Um, I do what I call the cheating method. I do the zenithal highlight on them, so I do the black undercoat, gray from the side, white straight down. So it does take 3 coats of paint, unfortunately, or 3 spray paints. And then once I get the spray paints, then I go to town and I take that same thin down Nuln oil that I've been using tonight and I wash them in Nuln oil. And that's virtually it. After that, it's just any kind of decal and stuff that I want to do on them or painting or painting the weapons But yeah, just the simple Nuln Oil is all I use. And again, this is a thin down Nuln Oil. It's not like the full strength pot of Nuln Oil. We're just trying to get a good coverage on it. And then, yeah, they come out. So like this is waxer, so it looks a little bit different. But um, notice I didn't do any of the black in the creases of the armor. I don't need to. I'm not worried about that. So this is just the zenithal highlight. So you can see the real dark color from below, real bright from above. And yeah, just do that in Nuln Oil, and then color it however you want. So simple, simple. Here's another example of the same type of model. Again, I'm not doing in between all the panels. I'm not going to waste my time. I want to get them done, get them playable. So, not the best painting job on this guy, but he's painted. They were quick. When you're doing 4 units of arcs, you just want to get them done. But yeah, that's how I do my white armor. There's some people I know that say to do a black undercoat and then paint up. Um, I just don't like painting white over black. It's a pain to paint a lighter color over darker color. Darker colors paint over lighter colors much easier. I'd rather not do 3, 4, 5 coats of white over black. I did that before on my Dark Angels with some of the vehicles, and I'm not going to do it. Okay, so we're back to this guy. See that black is really coming through nice and dark. We're not getting a lot of that brown showing through on the gun. So that's what we're wanting, but I did miss the handle of the gun. We missed the bottom of it too. Okay. I think we started doing the cape on this guy. So we've got him blue. What color do you want to do the cape on him? Thoughts, opinions? I know we need to get work on his cape. I'll work on this guy a little bit more while I wait to hear from you. Um, for this guy, I think we go ahead and uh, would the way you do the storms potentially work for Tawns if you wanted a snowy look? You could do that for the Tawns, but I would probably do a different color. I probably wouldn't do just the Nuln Oil. I mean, there's some other colors that would probably work well for that. I can't think of their names right now because I've got them out here on my desk somewhere. But I want to say it's Dreadful Visage, which is um, a wash. And I want to say I used that and it looked pretty good. Or Soul Bright Gray. Soul Blight Gray. Um, this is what I actually used on his arms for like the wraps on his arms. So I did the Zenithal highlight and then followed it up with this, and it worked really well. Turquoise. What were we talking about turquoise for? Oh, for his cape. Yeah, I can do a turquoise on that. That's not a big deal. Which turquoise do we do? Um, Kind of a weird looking turquoise, but Incubi Darkness kind of goes with the dark feel of CIS. So it's kind of a little bit more of a green, but kind of a cool color. I think it'll go well with that. Yeah, this is a cool color for this. I like this one. I am also one of those guys where I am kind of a creature of habit. If I find a color or paint that I really like, it usually stays fairly close on my painting area because I want to grab it easily. Um, because I know I'll be using it, and this is definitely one of those colors. Same like the corn red that we used earlier, or the Mephiston red for when I'm doing a hero character. Um, yeah, I want to keep these nearby to where they're easy to grab. So the Magna Guard staff uh, was not supposed to be this close to the cape, but I wanted to give it a little bit more stability. So I actually kind of bent the arm backwards slightly and then glued it to the base, or sorry, to the cape. So this model has much more stability now than what it had before that. And I recommend if you can find any ways to increase the stability of your models, that's an easy way of doing it, is finding what you can attach to a model or where you can attach like the pieces that are sticking out to try to build up that stability, make them a little bit stronger. Also, when I'm gluing my models, I don't use super glue. I know some people think super glue is like the best thing to use. I personally use plastic cement. It bonds the plastic together. You tend to have less breakage, especially on thicker models. I mean, I've had Space Marines bounce on the ground and not break at all because I use plastic cement to build them. Now, that's not to say everything works that way. I had something drop earlier today that broke on me, and I can't find the other piece, but that's part of the game too. That happens. So yeah, I'm liking this turquoise. So I think it's a good choice. So yeah, anytime you're painting, just being cautious of where you're putting the paint on the model, so you can keep an eye when it's pooling up or getting too thick in some places. Just take your time on it. Okay, so there's our base color done for that one. Tamiya Thin, yeah, Tamiya Thin works really well. I've used the Testors Rust-Oleum for a long time. I like that this has the applicator right in the bottle. Um, yeah, this is what I use the most. Um, I find it works really well. Okay, so we'll let that dry a little bit, touch up a bit there first. Okay, so we're gonna go back over to this guy. We wanted to start working on the red armor. Um, so I like to use again kind of a bright red over the top because I know I'm gonna wash it and bring that color down a little bit. So we're using Astrath red. Again, this is another one of those real thick paints. Um, I will say though, this one does stain quite a bit. So I've actually got to dig over here for a second and find the paintbrush I normally use with it because it it stains the brush. The brush doesn't stay that nice yellowish color. It stains to a pinkish red. So I'd recommend if you do use Astrath red to find another paintbrush that you're not going to worry about staining, because once you get that red on there, if you try to paint something else with that same brush, you are going to have red coming through. Unfortunately, this is a little bit bigger brush than I'd like to use. but it's the one that I've got stained up. So again, same thing. We're just going to kind of work it in the bristles. This one should show much better on the back of my hand. So when I go to test it, you see it's definitely coming off. And that's about how much I want coming off when I'm dry brushing. So I'm going to be very careful that I try not to get it on the other areas. I'm just trying to get it on the raised edges. And a nice little highlight on that pad right there, just on both sides. Notice again, trying to go against the grain, not trying to go with it. Get a little more paint on a brush here. So I'm just building this color up. I'm not in a rush to get a lot of this bright red on there super quick. I just want to kind of work it on there, work on building up the color so I get some real nice highlights. And you can see the difference between that chest plate and the helmet right now. Brush soap now with the reds. Yeah, I mean I've got brush soap. I've used it for years. I just can't seem to get this color, especially this Astrath red, to come out very well at all. It tends to just stay in the brush. Notice I'm trying to be careful in here where I'm getting the red. I don't want to get it on places that I don't want it. I do want it to show up quite a bit right here on this chest part. So I'm taking some time. And you'll find a lot of times too when you're dry brushing that if you just kind of turn the brush, sometimes you've been using the brush in the same manner too much. And by just turning a little bit, you'll get a little bit more of the paint coming off the bristles. So I think that's going to be our red color for now. And we'll go ahead and put a wash on him next. Find that using black afterwards can help. Yeah, I mean, black does a pretty good job, but I mean, you'll see I'm doing a decent wash on this brush right now. Kind of washing it twice more than I usually would. And when I go to clean it off, I mean, it still just gets red coming off. And maybe the brush isn't cleaned all the way, who knows? But this is the only color I use this brush for, so having it stained on there, I'm not really worried about it. It's going to get used for that same color again later on. Okay, but now we're going to jump over. We're going to use Caribird Crimson. This is a shade, so nice thin wash, and we're going to go ahead and cover that red armor now so that we can get those deep recesses coming out. And this is one of the older Caribird Crimsons. Same thing with the Druchii Violet I used earlier. This is one of those ones that is very pigmented and it stains quite a bit when it goes on. So that's why we got more of that staining effect on the cape. You see definitely down in the recesses there and the base of the base down in here and here. We're getting a lot of thick staining down there, and that's okay. But we're going to come in here and just start putting this red on. And so it's going to really pool up near the bottom of the helmet, and I'm kind of okay with that because I do want that shadow in there. But again, this having that lighter color before I start putting the wash on really makes a big difference in how it's going to look afterwards. And I can see on his left arm, I didn't do a great job of keeping the red. And we actually got red right here on the shoulder pad, or on the the clothing. So we'll have to go back through and touch that up a little bit. So again, just going through, adding our wash. Doesn't have to be super heavy. I'm not looking to get big dark areas. I just kind of want to tint it a little bit so that I'm getting a little bit of that recess coloring without it just being super bright. There we go. So far, I think that red looks pretty good. And we've got this shoulder pad over here to do still. And if you find that you have somewhere that has too much wash, like I'm going to do it right here on this pad, I'm going to put a lot on there. If you find that you get an area like that that's just got a big puddle of wash, all you need to do is just take your towel, dip your paint onto your paintbrush on your towel, and then go back over that area, and you'll suck up and absorb that excess wash. Pardon me, guys. I'll be back momentarily. Gonna go quick break here for a second. Okay, guys, sorry about that. Had a quick phone call I had to take. Okay, so we've got the red on here. Yeah, I've got some red in some areas where I didn't really want it. So, like, we've got a little bit from the dry brush right here on top of the knee. We've got a little bit on this arm right here. Um, so we're going to go through and just kind of touch that up real quick. So this is, again, why I like using a lot of the same colors. So on this con, I can go through and I could use Longbeard Gray would work okay. If I want a little bit thinner paint, I could use Gray Sear. And I think I'm going to go with Gray Sear on this one because I don't really want to highlight. This is a paint that I've been using for a while, and as you can tell, this was liquid at one point, and it is just really, really thick. But it works if I just go in here and get a little bit of the paint, not getting too much. I can go in here and just kind of touch up those areas, and it doesn't go on super thick. I can just use my finger to blend it in a little bit, just so we can cover those areas up. Same thing here, just blending it. Trying not to get in that little recess because I don't want to change the color of that. But just enough to where we can hide it. Maybe a little bit up here. We tried the Tamiya panel liner instead of non oil. I haven't tried it. I know about it. I know what it is. But like I said, when you have something that you know works, why change it? I know how the non oil is going to react and how it's going to work and what I want it to do, and so I just stick with the non oil. Okay, so this cape definitely needs a second coat here. We're going to come back through and block this in to make it nice and dark. And we don't have any of those lines showing through. You'll notice when I am painting stuff like capes, I try to run the brush all in the same direction, either like up or down, but not side to side, because I'd rather, if I'm going to have any lines left in the model, I'd rather them all be going in the same direction. So when I'm doing down here at the base, I'm still going in the same direction. And then we gotta get the inside of the cape again. Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to experimenting with new things when it comes to painting, but like I said, if you've got a method that works and you're happy with it, why change it? Okay, so there's our nice cape on that guy. So here's one of those dilemmas where we have this cape that's kind of this different color, and I've got to figure out what I want to use to shade that with. Do I want to shade it with a blue? Do I want to shade it with a green? And I'm thinking we'll probably use a blue because that way it kind of blends a little bit more with the cape, but we don't want it to blend too much. I just got to find a good blue because I don't want something that's super blue, but I don't want something that's super green either. What do we got here? Well, I think this is actually going to work well. So this was our base color with Inky by Darkness, and we now have Calibite Green. You would opt for a blue too, yeah. This is kind of a weird bluish green. It's a little more of a green maybe than I'd like, but I think this will work well. Otherwise, I'd be looking at maybe doing something like Thousand Suns Blue, which is really, really bright. Um, and then I'm worried that something like Mackridge Blue wouldn't be the right shade. So I think we'll try this Calibite Green. Again, worst case scenario, if we don't like the way it looks, just paint back over the cape and start again. So now this is not a dry paint. This is a standard base paint. So I'm still going to use the exact same method that I did before. If I can find my brush here. But again, I've got to make sure the brush is nice and dry. So I usually tend to use my pant leg, just kind of rub it on there for a minute, make sure the brush is super dry. And then same thing, we're going to get some of the paint and work it into the bristles. And this is going to take a little bit more paint than a dry paint because it wants to soak into the bristles. And so when we do the hand test, so it's definitely coming off. And it might be coming off a little more than I want. We're going to find out here in a second. So again, just kind of going across. Just try to build that color up. Kind of giving a cool, like almost like a glow to the cape. Getting some more paint, working it in, testing on the back of the hand. You always test it before you start dry brushing. Always test it. Never assume that it's ready to go. So I'm digging that. I kind of like that. It's not quite a blue, not quite a green. It's kind of got this cool, like middle tone. I'll kind of bring out these edges a little bit here. And same thing, we want to go back on the inside. A little more paint, work it in. You can see how these non-dry paints, I've had to go back to the pot. I think I've dipped in 4 times now. When I did the purple, I dipped into it once. So using a regular paint for dry paint definitely takes a lot longer. So you can see right there where I just did it, I got a lot of paint off on that first swipe. So that's why you always test, because if I didn't do that just now, it would be a lot of paint going onto that cape right away. And I find that once you get a good technique going, like you'll notice that I always say go against the grain, but like I'm really going on the same with this line right here and really building that color up to get that nice sharp edge. And sometimes you need to do that to get that color to work the way you want it to. So this is going to be a weird angle here, but same thing. I just want to build up that edge and try to do it from here, but it's probably not going to work real well. There we go. So yeah, I'm liking that cape, kind of a cool greenish blue color. Now, this is one of those ones where that green is not super, super bright, so I don't want to throw a lot of wash on it because it's going to make that green almost disappear. So I think on this one, we will use the Nuln Oil for the wash. But I'm not ready for that. We'll do that wash later on. So I do it all at one time. The next step on this guy is probably going to be his eyes and a little button here on his chest. This is going to seem like a really bright color, but Wild Rider Red works really well. Thank you, Seth. I'm liking that color too. So this, again, really super bright color. But this will work well for that button. It'll stand out really well. It won't be too hidden. It's not going to blend in so much. So throw a little bit on right here. So just enough to kind of stand out. And then I've got to do the eyes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I hate doing eyes. But I do have a brush that I use for those eyes. So this is a 3/0 brush. I mean, it is ridiculously small. I mean, I'm not using much of a brush at all. And so we're going to do the same thing, our same technique. We're going to get the paint on the brush. We kind of want to work quick because with such a small brush, it's going to dry really, really fast. That would contrast with the cape too. Yeah, that's kind of why I choose this color. It stands out really well. So I've got a little more paint on there than I want. It's kind of a big glob, so we're gonna wipe off a little bit of that. And I'm just gonna go in and I try to come down straight on the eye. We're gonna take our breath in, hold and breathe out. And wait a little bit longer. Our brush kind of dried out there. So do it again, breathe in, hold it, and breathe out. So you can just do that little teeny tiny dot for the eye. And again, this is that technique I learned that, this is what snipers do is they take that breath in, breathe out before they take the shot. That way they're not shaking as much for long distance. So breathe in, hold, breathe out. There we go. We got 2 eyes done. We're on to the third one now. Breathe in, breathe out. There we go. 3 nice little orange eyes. I do think I need a little bit more in these ones though. Okay. So that's why, as much as it's a kind of a sharp contrasting color, I think it works really well for doing stuff like this. You want it to kind of stand out. And then, yeah, I'm using that teeny tiny brush is what we want to do to get those eyes done. And Again, I don't know how well you see, but there you go. Not too bad. Okay. Next one we're using is Necron Compound. This is another dry paint. So going back, making sure our dry brush is nice and dry. So I'm wiping on my pants just to make sure the paint is dry, or the brush is dry. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get some of this dry paint. Now this one's really, really dry. It's almost like clumpy in there. But we're going to get a nice couple of clumps out. You can see on the brush it just puddles up, or not puddles up, but we get a little like lumps out. And we're just going to work this into the brush. Now, with what I'm doing on here, I don't want to get a lot of paint off. Okay, I want to keep it kind of where I'm gonna see the paint come off really well. And the reason is that because I'm doing these guns, I want to transfer a lot of the silver. I don't want to waste a lot of time. I want it to be kind of sharp and contrasting. So I want to get that silver on there. But this is all I do for my weapons a lot of time. I don't do anything too crazy with them. Just keep doing the staff here. Being careful, trying not to get the cape. Okay, so I think the staff is looking pretty good there. We've also got the gun on this guy we've been working on as well, so we'll go ahead and get his gun. We need a little more paint on this dry brush. So that brown we saw coming through is gone on this now. You're not going to be able to see that at all. Have you ever been able to revitalize GW dry brush paint? I've never tried. This one is the worst one I've had, is the silver. But yeah, no, I've never really tried to do them. Now I want to take this dry brush paint, the silver, and I'm going to try to get quite a bit of it off, because I'm going to go over the red just to try to put some silver highlights on it, just to kind of show that it's been a little bit of battle damaged, battle worn. So just to give it that little bit more contrast there on the helmet and the armor. And I want to do the same thing on the silver here. I do want to give the silver just some little bit of highlights. So just some of the broader areas that are sticking up. The hips, the sides of the legs, the back, like the ankles, the calves. We're just gonna add some silver there. And this is okay for me if I get some on the blue, because this guy's also been in battle, so there's no reason that the blue on his armor is going to be perfectly crisp. It can be a little worn down. I'm not one of those guys that my models have to look pristine, like they just came off of the factory floor. Like, I want them to look like they've been in battle for a little bit. You'll notice the other thing too is I'm not one of these people that likes to use all these super bright colors all the time. I really like to take my colors and make sure that they're just blending well and looking good together. I don't want to force the colors. And what I mean by that is, like, I guess what I'm trying to beat around the bush and say is I see a lot of people who paint with these really flamboyant, bright colors, and while the model pops really well, there's a lot of detail that's not being painted and just completely missed over. And that's not how I like to paint. I like it to really kind of stand out for the painting itself and not just the bright colors. Okay. So next thing I want to add on this guy is I want to give him some gold touches because I want him to, again, kind of stand out a little bit. He's a leader. He shouldn't just be silver and blue. So we're going to use Retributor armor, nice gold color. This is, again, another one that I've used for a long time. And I notice he's got this little triangular weight down here at the bottom of his cape. So we're going to start by just painting that part. And this is over this dark of a color. We're probably going to need 2 coats here. So we've got that nice little gold piece down there. I have to head out. Thanks for streaming. Great conversation. Great tips. Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming, Sean. I appreciate it. I'm not sure how often I'm going to do the painting streams like this. I'm hopefully shooting for once a week. That way we're not just doing the battle reports, but we can start doing some videos like this as well. But yeah, thanks for coming. I'll have the rest of this video posted up when I'm done here. And so you can come back on, and if you want to see how they finally came out, you can check out the end of it. I know this doesn't have it anywhere on here, but obviously like and subscribe our videos. Um, we are trying to do a lot more content on a regular basis and being a little more um, consistent with it. I know that we kind of started and kind of hesitated and stopped, but yeah, I'm trying to be much more consistent with doing these videos. So I think that gold looks good on there. Nice little pop of color for him. Now the question where to put gold over here. I think these little like hip plates right here would look kind of cool. We're going to just add the gold right there. Let's see, where else should we put some gold on this guy? You know what? I think I'm going to do a little bit right on the edge of his face, his nose area, mouth area, whatever you want to call it. Something that will really show up. Wow, this brush is really getting bad. I'm going to have to change this brush out before long. Yeah, I think even just that little bit of gold here and there kind of makes a big difference. But let's add his toes, make his toes gold, just because we can. Okay. I think it makes him look a little more regal with that little bit of gold on there. So we've got the gun done. We've got him done there. I think the last stage is to finish up his staff. So we'll move on to that part. So for the staff here, I'm going to use this Longbeard Gray dry paint. And I'm going to do kind of exactly what I did before with the dry paint. We're going to get some onto the brush. We're going to work it into the bristles. Test on our hand. There's a lot of paint coming off, so we're going to keep working it in. And I just want to go over right where the staff is right here, like the electric part on the staff. I really want this white to show up. I'm not trying to be super secretive with it. I want the white there. I want to give something to put a contrast paint on to make it show. So you can see the difference there. This one's definitely got the white on it. Put a little more paint on our brush. Okay, now we're going to come down to this guy. This dry paint really, as it starts to dry, kind of gets flaky. And that's what we're seeing here is it's kind of trying to flake off some of the white behind it. And it literally can just get blown away. So it's not staying on there. There we go. So we got those colors going on. I'm going to leave my white dry brush out because the color I'm going to use next, I'm going to want to put a little bit of dry brush over the top of it once it's done. And so for this one, we're going to be actually using a speed paint. We're using Plasmatic Bolt. So a nice kind of bright turquoise, excuse me, like a bright turquoise color. So for this one, we're just going to put a couple drops out. We don't need too much of this because we're doing a small area. And we're just going to come in here and take all that white paint that we just put on there and just kind of cover it up with this and let it kind of blend out. Now, when it goes to blend out, you don't want this strong line like that here, so put water on your brush and just kind of come in behind it, and you can just kind of fade that paint out. So it's not leaving that real strong line right there. We're just going to kind of work it out so that it blends in and fades off. And we'll go back and do the other side. So we're going to put this in here, get it where we want it, get a little bit of water on our brush, and just fade it out. And now when that dries, we'll just do a little bit of white over the top of that to kind of bring the edges of the electric portion of it to stand out. And that staff will be done. I'm not doing any crazy OSL this model. So wait for this to dry, do the white, and then we're going to do a non-oil wash over the whole model. And then we'll work on the base, and the base won't take too long. Okay, but back to this guy. So we've got the gun done. The gun is done. We need to finish up his helmet. I'm still not crazy on this gray armor. I still think I might change it out to a green. Not exactly sure what I want to do with that. Militarum green contrast paint just doesn't seem right. I'm not sold on it. Yeah, I don't know where we go with that. Caliban green can be too dark. Mantis green will be too bright. Well, thinking here, maybe we do this absolution green. So this absolution green is a speed paint. Again, I'm not as comfortable using speed paints. So I don't want this to be as dark as it's going to come out. So I'm going to do 2 drops because I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to need. And I'm going to thin this down. So we did 2 drops. So of the speed paint medium. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's try a 5-to-1 ratio. Still looking a little bit darker than I'd like. Is that 5 more? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're doing oh gosh, I don't even know what that math is now. That's looking a little bit better. But I think I want to add just a touch of brown. Just to kind of give it a little bit of a different color. Bronze. Here we go. Dark wood. So I want to give it a little more of like an army color. So we'll just do 2 drops of dark wood in there, and this is probably going to be good enough for what I want to do. So mix it up. That looks like a nice army green there now. Hair on the end of my brush. So now we need to be real careful putting this on because we got some areas where we don't want to get messed up. So let's start down here on the pants. And we're just going to come in and just start laying this color in. And we can see we're not doing too much of a change to it, but we're just adding that little bit of a green tint. And I'm honestly liking this better already. What we probably shouldn't do is boots. We'll give him some black boots after this, but Right now, we're just going to color him green to match everything else. Let's finish up this other leg. Yeah, I think it's definitely looking better. It's not quite as, I don't know, the white gray armor just wasn't really doing it for me. Sometimes I keep losing the camera angle here, but it's really tough to get some of these spots and still let you guys see what's going on here. But I am doing my best. That's the nice part about having this real thin color is it doesn't really affect the other colors too much if I need to go over some places, like right back here. Because it's so thin, it's mostly going to show up just on that white that we're doing. So yeah, I think I like that color palette much better for him. Smooth this out of the way. There we go. Get rid of that color now. Let's check, see how this staff is doing. Yeah, it's still drying. It's going to take a little bit. Okay, so on this guy, I think we need to do some gold on him because, again, we want him to stand out a little bit as a leader. So we're going to go back with that same Retributor armor gold that we used earlier. And I think we're going to start with the visor, this Mando helmet. I'm getting a little bit on the red there. Let's see if we can get it off before it dries. Yeah, not sure if we got it off or not, but we'll find out. Yeah, what looks like a little buckle on his little sash down here, his belt. So I'm going to paint that gold as well. That's looking pretty good. Not sure if there's anywhere else I want to put gold on him. Question is the spikes on his helmet. Gold or silver? Maybe we go silver. Or sorry, so we go gold. Just to try to keep it uniform here. There we go. I think that's looking pretty good. Definitely liking the green better. I didn't care for the other gray as much. Okay, so next part on him. Yeah, I need to go back and touch up part on the shoulders where he's got the armor coming down. So right in here. I just want to put some brown on there to show that those are like little leather straps. There we go. Kind of brings that brown color better in. Tape is nice and dry, and that's really showing up well. We've got this stun baton. I'm not sure exactly how I want to do it. I think I need to go back and do it like the other, pardon me, like the other weapons. I had an idea on how I wanted to do it, and I'm just not digging it. So let's start by just changing it to black. We'll do our silver dry brush on it like we did the other weapons. Okay, so that's going. Back to this guy. That contrast paint down, or sorry, not the contrast paint, the speed paint pooled up down there. Still taking a bit to dry. But we know that that's the last part we've got on this guy to do. So we can work on his base. So for basing, I'm going to do the same thing I always do for these guys. I've got like a pink purple sand mixture that I do. So we will start with the color for the base. I'm going to use a little bit bigger brush because I don't need to be super detailed with this. If I get a little bit on the feet, I'm not super worried about that because I'm going to be gluing down the rocks on top of this, and sometimes the rocks can get glued onto the feet. So if when I'm applying the glue, if I see areas where there's a little bit of paint that went over, I'll just add a little bit of extra glue right there, and then make sure that the rocks will stick to that higher part, so that maybe it looks like his foot's embedded, maybe it looks like he was kicking it, or maybe he's got some transfer from the sand onto his foot. anything like that works. I'm just trying to make sure that I can get it somewhat of a base coat on here. That way, if any of the rocks shift or move or don't stick, that has something underneath to kind of hide the color. And I'm going to do the rim black like I normally do, but we're going to just use this to kind of darken down that silver because that silver is fairly bright. So that's going to be a nice pop of color on his base to make him really stand out against that. Okay, so back over to this guy. Um, I know that we need to do inside the visor there, or the helmet. Um, I'm probably going to wait until we get the black wash in there first. But I'm thinking this guy's getting fairly close as well. And that black is almost dry right there. So we're going to work on this guy's base as well. Um, these guys have kind of a foresty base that I do. So we're going to start by painting it green. And I'm just going to be gluing the forest base stuff right over the top of this, so I don't care what this texture looks like underneath or what was there. I'm just going to paint it a solid color because I just want to hide it. Oh, we've got to go back and do this guy black boots also. Again, as this is just a base color, I'm not worried about how thick it's going on because I'm not planning on gluing the basing on tonight. That's a tomorrow problem. I am trying to be careful where I grab this guy because I know that the gold colors tend to kind of come off the easiest. So I'm not trying to touch where the gold is on his helmet. I don't want to leave spots underneath showing the red where, the spikes are. So again, just trying to fill in all these little crevices where there's white so we don't have that showing through if some of our basing gets moved. Okay, so we got that basing going now. Back over to this guy. I think we're going to go ahead and give him the non-oil wash. So we can start bringing all those colors together. But actually, this is looking dry enough, so we're going to go ahead and do that really quick first. So we're going to go ahead and bring out the little electric sparks on the Magna Guard here real quick. So we just want this bite to kind of show up a little bit more. Okay, so there we go. We got our little electrostatic going on. But I think I'm actually going to make that look even a little bit better. Because I like the way that looks. But I think I can make it stand out just a bit more. So we are going to look for our yellow contrast paint that I use. So we'll do Nasdrag yellow. That's that's a little too dark. Let's go with Iandan yellow. So Iandan yellow is a little bit brighter yellow color. Now we're just going to go over those white areas we just did with just a touch of yellow. There we go. I think that looks a little bit better now. So the staff looks like it's really glowing. Okay, so let that dry and we'll do the wash on him. Go ahead and do this weapon again now that the black is dry. And go back to our silver. Just working our silver. Just trying to get the highlights here. And because this one doesn't have any little electric stuff coming off of it, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of give something to signify that it's a weapon instead of just some silver piece on there. Some little silver rod that he's holding. So we're going to go with a nice little copper color. Let's see, where do we got one here? I know it's here somewhere. I'm going to move this light. Let's see. There we go. We've got Screaming Skull. Screaming Skull. It's kind of like a brass color. We're just going to get a little bit of this. I think we're just going to go right here, this little end piece. I'm just going to, almost like we're dry brushing it on there. We don't want to fully cover that part. We just want to be like, hey, look, this is something unique. And maybe we'll do this little panel part right here. Not sure if it's a button or what. Just do that piece. So we give it a little bit more distinction there. Okay. I think we're on to the wash stage now with both these guys. So I'm going to go back to our thin down Nuln oil that we've been using this whole time. And again, I'm using my nice big brush on this that I normally use. So we'll start with this guy over here. And again, we're just going to go through and it's going to look like it's going on really dark. I know it's not because of how thin it is. And it's just the shine from the light. But we're just trying to spread this evenly over the entire model. And remember, this is the one where I said I needed to do the cape because we didn't want to tint the cape too much. We do want to tint it, but just a little bit. We make sure we get the back of the head, the arms. And I'm going to take just a little bit of extra wash here and just kind of dab it because I want to get some pooling effect in that crease. I don't want that much pooling. I'm going to wipe some of that out. We do want to come in here and kind of wick away some of the in the eyes that we painted. So we want, again, those to stand out. I'm thinking he's looking pretty good there. Once he dries up, he'll look awesome. So let's put him aside. Bring this guy in. The base is fairly-ish clean. So again, same thing. We're just gonna kind of put this wash all over him. And it's a thin down wash. It's not going to tint the colors much at all. We're just looking to get some of the depths in the recesses. And I know I don't need to do this, but I am just going to go ahead and do the cape as well, just so that the color and the shine that I'm getting is going to be more uniform this way. And that's really about the only reason I'm doing it, is just to try to get the same uniform color, or the glossiness of it, so that when I go to hit it with my clear coat later on, it's going to look the same. It's not going to like stand out too much. And again, we are looking for pooling, so we're going to look for anywhere where it's collecting too much, like maybe right here a little bit, probably right there on the other side, maybe a little bit around the waist right here and the buttons, by that horn. And we're just going to kind of dab it a little bit to pull that stuff off. We just want to get it to show a little bit more. And I find that this is almost kind of like a panel lining in between all the colors, where it just really brings out those colors. It almost like separates them and highlights them a little bit more. The one area where I'm going to be a little bit more generous, actually, I'm not going to be generous with the wash on that, because I do want to get it to be a nice color in there. So I'm going to go back to the Black Legion, the color we did for the weapon, and I'm going to just put some of that right down inside here, so that we can get that face mask nice and dark. With that dark line in there between the face. And I think we're going to be good with that. I don't think we're going to do too much more to that, to his face right there, because the helmet's going to kind of hide enough. So that's, you can see some of the white coming off on the base, or the green coming off on the base with the white showing through. Again, not super worried about that. Got a little bit pooling down here on the shin guards. That's fine. I think we're pretty much ready to call these guys done for the night, and the next part will be to finish up the bases. Um, I'm not going to finish up the bases tonight, but I will add some pictures of these guys on the either at the end of the video, um, or at the what's it called, or online somewhere. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just left with doing the black rim and gluing stuff on the base. So yeah, I think we'll call it here. Um, this is what we got done tonight. So thanks for those that joined me with just putting some paint on models. And literally, that's all I got to do. You got to start somewhere. Just get your models. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid, and just start putting some paint on them. And that's all you need to do. You'll get better as it goes. This is not a quick process, but yeah. So there we go.
Okay, and we're back here now, guys. We've got these two models finished up. We've got the basing done on them, and we've got the black rims painted on. So we've got the CIS Commander with the purple and pink basing, with the little blue and white Tesla grass. And we've got the Empire Commander with the Mandalorian helmet and the Forest basing. I like the dynamic, how dynamic the Forest basing is on the Empire Commander. But I really do dig the pink and purple color on the CIS as well. That's how all mine are done up, as long as all my Empire are done up this way as well too for the Commander there. A couple unique things we did on here. So we did the custom Mandalorian helmet onto the Empire Commander. I thought that was kind of a nice little touch. And then we have the CIS commander, and I want to thank Sean, who came up with the idea of doing the turquoise cape on there. I think that looks really good. And yeah, overall, so hope you guys enjoy these, and we'll be back soon with another painting video. I'll leave this up here for another minute or so to go through the rotation, and then we'll go ahead and turn this off.